The Overcomers series is a weekly discussion program aimed at bringing us closer to going through life's challenges in Christ. Here's to a great season of overcoming. This week on the Overcomers series, we meet Carla, the bubbly and verbose trainer, host, and facilitator. Carla Moore is a self-professed artist, activist, academic, and alchemist. What most people don't know is that she also experiences anxiety. Learn how she copes, and even has time to be a life coach and help others defeat the overwhelms of life. Watch her story on episode 8 when we feature overcoming anxiety. Good night, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Overcomer series. I am so pleased to see so many responses and so many comments in the last 2 or so months in regards to what we've been sharing online. I just shipped off a few of the Overcomers branded shirts, and I'm seeing some responses in regards to that. And I am seeing a lot of responses in regards to the different episodes that we have aired. Tonight, we have no other than host, facilitator, and trainer Carla Moore with us tonight. More Talk JA. How are you doing? Good night.
I'm okay. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think I am more pleased to have you than you be pleased to have me on, you be on my show.
So you're still going to stay like this after all of these years? You're still going to stay like this?
Yes. As you can
This don't make sense.
opening comments, we know each other for quite a while. Guests. And tonight we are supposed to be tackling a very interesting topic: overcoming anxiety.
Yes.
That plagues many persons. It is something that, you know, goes along the spectrum of the different mental health issues that people may face. And unfortunately, because of the time period that we're in, which is so stress filled and also grief filled, and many persons losing their lives, many persons have to be grieving over loved ones, or just of going through a day trying to figure out what you're doing in a pandemic, taking care of kids, taking care of yourself, ensuring that ends meet. It's not easy. So I think it is a fitting time to speak about these things. And who better to do it than the very verbose Carla Moore?
And the very anxious Carla Moore.
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about. So before we
Yeah.
speak, let us say a quick word of prayer. Lord,
Okay.
I thank you so much for just the opportunity to share, the opportunity to come together and fellowship as believers. And through Christ's grace and his continued mercy, we are able to continue to learn more about life and to continue to come together and face the challenges that we all have issues with at some point in time. And more importantly, through your word and through your truth, find solutions that can assist us to go through life as best as possible. Help us tonight to discuss it to the best of our abilities. And may somebody's heart and mind be changed tonight. In your glorious name. Amen. So thank you, Carla.
Thank
Let's get
you.
right into it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I mean, I know you, of course, but the viewers do not. So tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your family life, where you grew,
Okay.
who you were when you were younger.
Okay. I am a For people who know me, they will probably know me as a vlogger at More
Yes.
Talk JA, because I've been vlogging since about 2011. When I accidentally landed in a vlogging career because I needed to complain about something in patois and there were no Jamaicans around me because I was in Canada. So I uploaded something on YouTube, and then next thing you know, people start viewing the thing. I was very confused about how everything turned out.
That's country from long time, the YouTube
That's
channel.
country from long time. Yes, the YouTube channel. More recently, people would find me doing vlogging more actively at More Talk JA. And that's really just because I live in the bushes and my internet connection is not great. And trying to upload very long videos to YouTube was just asking for a stability of connection that I could not promise anybody. So I, started doing more 1 minute clips and then
Yes.
doing that more over there. Um, the title that I use for myself more generally is that I'm an artist, an activist, an academic, and an alchemist. So I lecture at the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at UWI, and I'm an adjunct lecturer. I'm also an artist in that I'm an actress, I'm a spoken word poet, I'm an author, those types of things. Or writer, because author implies that you have something published. Oh, I have things published. I'm an author.
Yes.
I'm an activist because I do a lot of social justice work, because I know that's a part of my purpose is healing and change making. And I'm an alchemist. So the most recent thing that I've started doing is I'm a life coach. I'm a certified life
Yes.
coach, but I've been doing that type of work for long before. Who was I growing up? Well, I'm the only girl in a family with 5 boys. People think that would mean that I am spoiled. It actually means that I had to fight. It also means that I didn't actually become girly until much later in my life, like at UA. I really didn't start becoming girly until I started dating, because I was just always around boys. And when you're around boys, you just kind of have to be one of the boys or nobody not gonna play with you. I've always been outspoken. I always tell people, listen, if people tell you that you're a chatty mouth, don't worry about it. There's a career for you. There's several careers for you. All of my careers are based on being a chatty mouth and being enough and being what people think of as big and dramatic and sometimes too much. I'm from Linstead. I live in Hanover now. I have resided in country areas for most of my life, and I'm happiest there. I love space, I love bush, I love animal. My dog has tried to take down my tripod at least 2 times already, and probably people didn't notice because I have that grip to keep it from moving. My cats are actively fighting in the background, and this is just what my life looks like. So I am a person who is working towards her purpose. And my
Yes.
purpose is to be a healer and an illuminator. And I'm also a person who has experienced some traumatic events in her life that have contributed to my anxiety and also contributed to the work that I'm able to do with other people who are having a difficult time, because it allows me to empathize with them. Yeah.
That is a mouthful, Carla. And I know all these things.
Yeah.
Before we reach to all of these multitude of things you do, what the psychologists would call a multi-potentialite. Talk to me about when you were young. Talk to me about how you viewed life and how it is that you think your anxiety started.
Okay, great question. When I was younger, I think I'm just now starting to understand how I viewed life when I was younger. I think I had an understanding of myself that was a little bit different from how I actually was. So, for instance, I've always been the child that people thought of as very confident, very secure in herself. But underneath all of that, I was actually very shy. And despite having very high self-confidence, I struggled a bit with my self-worth. Um, this actually has shifted quite a few times in my lifetime. I think when I was a kid, I was a bit more sure of myself and sure that, I was awesome. And then over time, after one particular traumatic event, things started to go downward. And the traumatic event is that I was sexually assaulted at 7 years old. When something happens to you that early in your life, you don't actually know yourself without it. So you're basically traumatized and you're going through life traumatized. My parents knew because I told them what happened. So they knew, but I don't think any of us understood the depth of support that I would have needed for what happened. And so I walked with that all of my teen years, through university, up to being an adult. And it was really 23 years down the road before I started talking about it. And the interesting thing about how my anxiety has played out, which I gather is actually quite common for people, is I was experiencing the symptoms of anxiety. I was exhibiting the behaviors that are associated with anxiety. My body was telling me that I was anxious well before I could name that I was experiencing anxiety.
Yeah.
Things like, I've never really liked school, right? I've never been a school person. It's interesting because I'm a teacher now, but I've never really enjoyed the place. And I remember that I used to negotiate with my father for days off. You know, I'd be like, all right, daddy, I went to school Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Can I please get Thursday off? And looking back at it, you know, first of all, great negotiation skills. So big up me and big up my father for going along with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I think about it, you know, one of the questions I asked myself was, well, why didn't you want to be in school? Could it be that you were actually experiencing anxiety at that time? And that's one of the reasons why you needed a break from that. When I became a bit older, and this would have been around the time that you knew me because I was in high school,
Yes.
I used to love to dance. I used to love to go out and dance. I mean, like just any dance. Like I was the one right behind Elephant Man dancing. If him shizzle, I would manistle. Like if him sweat, he would have dropped on me. Like I was dancing. You know, I'll end up in a music video. And then over time, this thing started to happen to me that I would just sweat. When I go out, I would just sweat uncontrollably. And the first thing I went is, oh, because you're fat, right? And there's another intertwining there between my anxiety and my body and my weight and, you know, the way that we discredit certain things that happen to us because there is something that we focus on. So anything happened to me, I say, I become fat. So I started to sweat and I was like, oh, it's because you're fat. No, I was the same size that I was at the last party and the party before that and the party before that. So there's no reason for me to think that. But I would just sweat and eventually I stopped dancing. I stopped hanging out with my friends, really. I would just be on the sidelines of the party, eating ice, trying to stay cool. Looking back at it, I realized that I was having social anxiety. Yeah. I was anxious inside of the party space. And so my body was sweating, which is one of the things that happens to you when you're anxious. But I didn't have the language for it because, like many people, I never think I have no reason for anxious. I'm not looking at myself and thinking anxiety because when we think of an anxious person, we think of somebody that's very shy. We think of somebody who looks fraidy. We think of somebody who, you know, just can't get up and face the world. So because I was still going out and doing all the things that I needed to do, it never dawned on me that my anxiety and I were walking side by side into everything that I was doing. And I was functioning, but I was anxious at the same time. And that's actually that's how my anxiety met me, because that's how it showed up in my life. But it wasn't until much later that I actually became cognizant of the fact that what was happening to me was anxiety. And when I say later, I mean within like the last 5 years. In the last 5 years of my life, I have come to the understanding that I'm actually a person who is living with an anxiety disorder.
Yes, that is fascinating, Carla. And I like the term that you use that says your anxiety met you. You know, I've had anxiety before, and I'm realizing that is basically what happens to many persons. They're not quite able to name what's happening to them. Sometimes they may be even as outgoing as you described. Things which persons presume are, extroverted, or that they have a cool personality, so to speak. But there are other underlying things that may happen. So you described, having this, maybe I don't need to go to school today. Social anxiety. I just to put that in, obviously she means also that it wasn't because of the physical exertion why she was sweating. It was because this it's the sensations going through her body telling her that she was supposed to feel guarded, she was supposed to feel nervous because of whatever was happening in the space society is. The other thing I want to ask you is trauma that you experience due to abuse. Assume by now you have, gone through the things in your brain which may have triggered some of the things that you're describing now. But I think it was also a contributing factor to all the things that you've been describing here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because when something traumatic like that happens and your boundaries are violated in that way, it becomes very difficult for you to feel safe in the world. You feel unsafe in almost every aspect of your life. You feel unsafe in getting close to people because you don't know what they're going to do. You feel unsafe being out in public because you don't know if something bad is going to happen. And you can't place what the bad thing might be. On some days, your brain might give you a list of bad things that could potentially happen. But ultimately, what happens is that feeling of security that you're supposed to have that says, I can move about and do the things I need to do to live my life and I am safe is taken from you. And then you feel unsafe everywhere. So yes, the trauma was kind of like the fracture. And then everything else that happened after that was kind of like what sprung up inside of that fracture. Um, but as I said, it took years for me to even unravel that. It took years for me to understand what was happening. And I think there are so many people walking around who are experiencing just difficulties, just feeling like my life is harder than it should be, who have this traumatic thing that they can't even acknowledge yet, or they have it, but they don't think it's that deep. Um, and there is something that I want to say specifically on that issue. When it comes on to the issue of sexual assault, what we think is if a person is raped, then they have been assaulted and then they have the right to be traumatized. And there are so many people walking around who have been assaulted but not raped, who feel as though their assault is not bad enough to warrant the way they feel as a result of it. And the thing I want everybody to know is that the severity of the act plays into it, but it's actually having your boundaries violated that creates that fracture. It doesn't really matter that deeply how they were violated, but the fact that your boundaries were violated is a thing that creates that fracture, that can create depression, anxiety, that can create low self-worth, that can give you post-traumatic stress disorder. So don't compare. If anybody is watching this and you feel what happened to me get off easy because other people have it worse. Do not compare the thing that happened to you to what happened to anybody else. You can only show up to the truth of what you experience and make your way from there. Doesn't matter how bad it was or how easy you get off. If it's a mash up, it's a mash up. Deal with it.
I agree. And there's so many persons suffering silently in multitudes of ways. One, because of traumatic experiences that, as you describe, they may think should not be affecting them, but is, and they feel guilty. So it like them to feel even more shamed and even more guarded. And there are some now who may not have, lucky as we are that we're always talking about things. I guess it's part of our personalities as well. And they have no person who they think they can speak to on these issues. And so there's no outlet for it, which again causes another cycle for you to feel repressed and feel, inside everything is just agitated and even more anxious.
Yeah.
What I want to say to everybody tonight who may be listening is there's always somebody we can speak to. Carla spoke to her parents. I have spoken to mine when I was going through my difficulties, and many other persons. No,
Yeah.
you are not alone, please. And and no matter the severity of what may have happened to you, do not downplay it thinking, I don't know, and end up suffering inside emotionally. Please do, if you need help, seek it. And there's
Mm.
somebody that will be willing to assist and, be there. Another thing that happens with persons who have anxiety is that they feel that people will be critical and, beating them on the head with something if they say something personal, which is another cycle, which makes them feel even guilty and shameful again, not wanting to say anything or try to seek help. So keep those things in mind. We need to get back to what Carla has been discussing, really eloquently said, but we need to go to a quick commercial break and we'll hear a little bit from one of our sponsors, Mel, who is the gift curator. Let us go to that commercial break right now.
Hi, my name is Melissa Thompson, and I'm the owner and founder of The Gift Curator. We're a full service online gifting business that specializes in custom and curated gift designs for any occasion life has to offer. Basically, the service that we offer, the individual who is purchasing the gift doesn't at all come in contact with it in terms of packaging or anything. All of that is handled for them and it can be delivered directly to their loved one's door. You can check out my Instagram page. We are at the Gift Curator JA.
Come back to our second segment in episode 8 of the Overcomer series, where we've been discussing overcoming anxiety with Carla Moore. And she disclosed quite a few bits of personal information earlier. But as we continue, we want to get a bit of a more clearer view of this issue of anxiety. You know, anxiety is something that many people suffer from. And one, they may not even know they suffer from it. Two, they may suffer from it and not be able or willing or want to seek help. And three, there are some who suffer from it and have sought help, but haven't been able to go over the hump, so to speak. So, what's interesting to me, Carla, is how free and open you are in discussing these things. One, two, you yourself have processed it a lot and even become a life coach. So maybe there's a way you can talk about how it led from one point to the next. And you obviously still have some of those sensations that come to you sometimes. So maybe the listeners need to know some ways to go through and try to cope with anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. Um, my journey to becoming a life coach, as you correctly said, is directly linked to it,
Yes.
to trying to manage my anxiety and just wanting to feel good in my own life. Because I recognize that it really just felt like I was living the same year over and over and over again. I was just stuck inside of the same cycles. I could read my life and I could see the same patterns showing up in my life, right? And I wanted to break it. Also, because I know that my purpose is to work as a healer and to offer support to people, I wanted to get better at being able to do that. I didn't just want to talk to people from my own experience. I wanted like some actual tools, skills, things that I could pass on to people that they could apply in their own lives. And that's a part of the reason why I decided that I was going to become a life coach. Um, when I decided to become a life coach, I had already been doing work on myself for some time. I had gone into therapy because I recognized that I was at a point where I couldn't deal with it on my own. And that's one of the key things that I would love to say to people. I want to really reaffirm that thing you said about you're not alone and ask for help. Sometimes you need the support of either a professional or a group space. You can do it, you want. There is nothing wrong. You're not failing. This thing hasn't gotten the best of you. You're just taking the steps that you have to take in your own best interest. Before I started life coaching, one of the things that I started to explore with myself was cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. CBT. Now, for people who don't know, CBT is effectively, they consider it like brain training. So it's you retraining your brain to respond differently or to receive and process information differently. So the way that I explain it is, if you walk up to a field and there is a particular route that people usually take across the field, how do you know? If you walk up to a field right now, John Neal, how do you know what's the route that people usually take across the field? How can you tell?
It's usually the well-worn path, so you'll see up.
The well-worn path. Exactly. When we have an experience, it sets up a neural pathway in our brains. And literally, the more we have that experience and we have the feelings that are associated with that experience, the stronger that pathway becomes. The problem is, if that pathway is associated with bringing us to what we, negative feelings, despair and hurt and loneliness and expecting the worst and all of those types of things, if that pathway is based on something traumatic that happened, then what can happen is over time, we just pick those behaviors, we pick those feelings, we pick the things that are going to take us to those feelings, even though we don't want them. And so cognitive behavioral therapy is about basically throwing some rocks into that pathway or just using it less so that the grass can spring up back and go in and walk in somewhere else. So one of the things that I have to do to manage my anxiety is to have a conversation with my thoughts. I need to go to the supermarket. And this is something that actually happens to me. I need to go to the supermarket. The food I run out in my house, I'm just not leaving the house to go to the supermarket. Me, I eat crackers and water just so me don't have to go to the supermarket. Clearly something is wrong. What is wrong? The idea of going to the supermarket makes me feel anxious. Why? It feels like an uncontrolled environment. I don't know what is going to happen out there. Okay, what do you think might happen out there? Something bad. The thought I have is something bad is going to happen. Do I have any proof for this thought? Well, yes, I've gone to the supermarket before. I'm accidentally crashing into somebody's car. Okay. Is there any proof against the thought? Well, yes. Majority of times that I've gone to the supermarket, I've just probably overspent because I don't stick to my budget and then nothing bad happened. Okay. Is there an error I have in my thinking? Well, the error in my thinking is actually based on anxiety. My anxiety is telling me that I should prepare for something bad. My anxiety is telling me that there's something lurking, but in reality, there's nothing lurking. How does that thought make me feel? It makes me feel like I don't want to do anything. It makes me want to feel like I want to hide. How do I want to feel? I want to feel comfortable and confident going to the supermarket. Okay. So what thought allows me to feel that way? I am safe. It is safe for me to go to the supermarket. Even if something bad should happen, I'm resilient and I have the capacity to manage it. It's okay for me to go out into the world. I am safe there. And like I had to take myself through this type of training and learn to have these types of conversations with myself so my anxiety wouldn't keep getting the better of me, right?
Yes, before you go on,
Yeah.
it is not something that is well, taught.
Yeah.
And only, I mean, I'm in training to be a pastor, and I have been to counseling room two
Hmm.
and three. I have myself as well as
Yeah.
yourself, and those who are in the realm of psychology, and those who are in the realm of being teachers or trainers. So this is new to some
Yeah.
persons. So please, if you are listening, please do, have some paper or something and take a little bit of notes. What she was basically trying to get you through is something that one of my mentors always repeats
Hmm.
about false evidence appearing real, EAR. And what is really happening is that your brain is tricking you to want to shy away or not do something because you presume it will cause you harm. So what Carla was doing was going through a process of what your brain is saying to you, what one of our other speakers called self-defeating thoughts, and then changing your thought on it to say, all right, maybe this is not so true. Maybe I can do something else in this situation, and leading you to a path to actually go and do what you can, where whatever the situation is. In her case, it was going to the supermarket. Additionally, you can also read up on, and I know you guys are good readers, on neuro linguistic programming. It's something very similar in terms of how it tries to retrain the brain and the neuronal pathways.
Yeah.
So break you, but I had to make that mention so people can pause, take their notes and know what they need to do.
Yeah. I
In terms
appreciate
of
that.
becoming a life coach,
Hmm.
how have you seen that change your life, or maybe even the lives of those you have assisted?
Becoming a life coach has definitely changed my life.
Yes.
One, because there's a way that many of us struggle with the same thing, but then we feel alone
Mm.
because very often we don't talk about the thing that we're struggling. So I could be sitting right beside you and I'm going through the same thing that you're going through. And I feel like it's me one in the world going through it. Becoming a life coach means that people give me access to what they're going through. And when I'm coaching people, it's always surprising for me because I'm talking to them and I'm like, but that's me, and that's me, and that's me. And you see yourself in people because you realize that we're really going through the same things. And I'm sure that from your own experience, you recognize this as well. We're going through the
Yeah.
same things. Becoming a life coach has allowed me to workshop my own challenges as I support people in getting over theirs. So, one of the things that I do in my coaching is a 6-week self esteem course. Johnny, when me start look on the material for the 6-week self esteem course, see me I realize that me need the whole of the material in the core.
You need it welded into your brain just as much as you need to learn it to impart it to others.
Because I have the negative self talk, I have the fear around asserting myself, I have this very critical voice that's in my head. I have all of it. And so getting access to those resources has helped me getting to to have a community of people who it
Yes.
feels like we're all working on something together has really helped me. And becoming a life coach has pushed me more deeply into compassion for myself because it's so easy for me to look at a client and say, nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you. You have some challenges that you're dealing with, but nothing wrong with you. But when I'm talking to myself about the exact same thing that I'm struggling with, I can be so hard on myself. And I think that experience of just saying to people over and over again, nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you, eventually it actually seeps into my brain that nothing wrong with me. one of the tools that I use just generally in coaching or in training, I don't know if you're familiar with it, is Tara Brach, Brach. She does work around radical compassion. And she uses something that she calls the RAIN meditation. So radical compassion is basically an approach to dealing with self and dealing with others where you meet the person with just absolute compassion, no criticism, no judgment. When a difficult emotion comes up, your response to it is to lean towards it and to nurture yourself through it. You basically treat yourself the way that you would have wanted to be treated as a child. So when you were a child and you had big emotions and it was hard and you didn't know what to do, how would you have wanted the adults around you to treat you? You would have wanted them to pick you up, hug you up, tell you it's okay, sit down beside you, hold your hand. These are the same things that you have to do for yourself.
Yes.
So
And
when we talk, sorry, go ahead.
In the scenarios that you play with the person who you're counseling with or speaking to, that you create an imaginary scenario and you act as if you are the off play of whatever you're going through to get that support. You want to try it right out? This must be interesting. Yeah. You will coach me to be the person. Give me about 2 minutes of it, please. I'm pretty sure this should be helpful for the viewers.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's start here. Think back to a time. Actually, let's identify this. What is the feeling that is most uncomfortable for you?
Whoa.
For some people, it's powerlessness, inadequacy, vulnerability, fear, anger. And what is a feeling that is uncomfortable for you?
And we've all spoken about all of those things in a bit from a series. But I would say that the fear of failure, it fear a lot. Yes.
The fear of failure. Okay. Yes. How do you generally respond when you feel like you're failing at something?
All right. So I usually feel as if I am not as accomplished as I can be. I tend to get a little tight in the body, and I can just feel the sensations going through me. And sometimes I respond defensively. I try to, or I guess I will try to prove the opposite of whatever may be in my mind, or whatever I may perceive the other person may be projecting, in that scenario.
Right. Okay. So when you feel as though you're failing, you can feel the tightness in your body. You might react defensively. You feel as though maybe you're not being all you can be. You're not achieving all that you can achieve.
Yes.
So if we're doing the RAIN meditation, I want you to bring up that feeling. That feeling that I'm failing. I want you to think about the last time that you experienced this feeling in a big way. A big way. Just take yourself back there. If you want to, if you need to, you can close your eyes and go back to it. Remember the situation. Remember if there was a person talking to you, there was something that you had to do, and you went back to that feeling. And then I want you to recognize the feeling. Recognize where you're feeling it in your body. Where do you feel it in your body?
Mostly in my chest. In
your chest.
Heart is.
Okay. So one of the things you can do is you can actually put your hand there in the area where your heart is. And then I want you to just allow yourself to feel it. Don't run away from it. Don't act like it's something you need to get away from. Just allow yourself to feel it. And then get curious about it. What makes you afraid of failure?
That's a question. Oh my God!
I
don't know the answer. I think the most obvious answer is Uh, you know, I am a fairly high achiever, or
Mhm.
I always have a sense my purpose is molded with being able to do something as best as I can.
Mhm.
Maybe it's as simple as that.
Yeah, you're a high achiever. And so it's important to you. If something is molded to your purpose, then it's very important to you.
Yes.
What do you think it would say about you if you were to fail?
Hmm. Would say you can do better, or
Mm-hmm.
um, try a little harder,
Mm-hmm.
or try another way,
Mm-hmm.
or mm, what have you learned from that failure that you can take
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Right, right. And who would you be if you weren't a high achiever anymore?
Who would I be? A
Mm.
joke. I'm making fun of this meditation. Jeez. I would be, I don't know, just a young man on the beach most days, probably just
Chilling,
uh,
chilling. Yeah.
yeah.
So we know that inside of that feeling of I don't want to fail is the idea that if I had done more, I probably wouldn't be failing. If I
Yes.
had done otherwise, I probably wouldn't be failing. If and some of that can become I feel inadequate.
Yes.
I feel I should have figured this out and I didn't.
Yes.
I feel I didn't give enough to this. I know better and I didn't do it. Right?
Well, yes.
And those are hard feelings to hold. Those are very hard feelings to hold. So it would make sense that when those feelings come up, you might want to just get away from them because
Mm-hmm.
they're hard to hold. Now imagine that when you imagine your child self, how old
Mm-hmm.
are you? When I say, if I switch it to you, Johnny, you'll imagine the childhood version of yourself. How old do you go back to?
Usually around anywhere between 8 to 10 years old.
All right. So let's
Yeah.
imagine 8-year-old you coming to you, the adult. The eight
Mm.
year old version of you is coming to you, the adult, and he says to you, I am about to do this thing and I just feel like I'm going to fail and it is really stressing me out. I feel tight in my chest. I just don't know what to do. What would you say to him?
I would say, Jesus, this is good. Getting a full life coaching here tonight, people. But just get back into what we're doing here.
Yeah.
This is wonderful because if you and I hope you guys taking notes now. Because obviously what's gonna happen because you're an adult, well, usually it's more older person. You're gonna speak to your child, tell them consoling things or reassuring things, or the things we always tell our kids to
Yeah.
make it's okay still. And it's a trick that you can do to your brain all the time. So obviously, I would
Yeah.
tell my younger person, you can always try again. That failure doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And you know, another thing which is also important is that that failure does not define you. You're not. Jeez, failure is not a person. It is an event. It's not a signpost that says failure, Daniel, failure, Carla. It is just something that happens along the way, and you must fail in order to eventually succeed at something. Everybody does.
Yeah.
I would tell my younger self,
Yeah.
yes,
And that's beautiful.
yes,
You're still a great person. You were a great person before you started achieving all of these things. You will
yes,
be a great person if you stop achieving all of these things. But even so, as you said, this is an event, it's a
yes,
one time thing. And you have potentially failed at things in the past and you're
mhm,
okay,
yes,
right? I always say to people, go back to when you were learning to walk. How much time you did drop? How much time you did drop when you alert
Multiple
for what?
times.
You
I don't
drop,
know.
drop, 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 drop,
I
drop.
know I must have dropped multiple times.
If you did drop one time and say, I have fallen and I feel I have failed and
Yes,
never
and you
got
now get
up.
back up. No baby does that. But true.
Right. So this is what radical compassion looks like. And this is what the process of having radical compassion for yourself looks like. It is recognizing an emotion. It is allowing yourself to just experience it. So just sit with it, lean with it, investigate it, get a bit curious about it, and then nurture. Meet
And then
yourself with nurturing. Think about, because the way that we sometimes were treated by the adults around us when we had big emotions is the way that we deal with our big emotions. You're crying and it's disruptive. You're angry and it is too loud. You're making a scene. Nobody wants to see that. You are clingy and I need to be at work and I can't sit here and just push you all the day long. I have to go and earn money so that you can get food, right? These are the realities that we're living in.
Yes.
But what happens is that the relationship of our caregivers with our big difficult emotions become our relationship with our big difficult emotions. So in the same way, don't come and disrupt my anger, don't come and pull me off track sadness, don't come and mash up my day, whatever is the thing, loneliness, whatever, fear, vulnerability, parking lot them.
Jeez, that's so
And they
cool.
want your emotion. They need your attention and they will continue coming for it until you give it.
And, thank you so much, Carla, for that. You guys just coaching session. And what I will say is that the fascinating thing about many of us, and I mean, we have gone through all the processes based off what we are doing with our lives, as well as the fact we went through some of these issues before. People never usually go through the process of training their mind like that to themselves in a fashion to allow the flow of positivity to come from the negative thoughts. I hope you guys are taking notes there. And we have to go to another commercial break. And I'll give you some details later as to how you can reach out to Carla on live coaching sessions. And you must agree with me that that was excellently done. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Thank you.
Commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk with Carla some more and close off this episode with some more solutions and, just some more tidbits and advice. And you can hear her as she groans and does some of the things that she does. So come back.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Cameron, Managing Director and Fashion Designer of Shades of Africa. Appreciate where you are on your journey. Every season has its own special purpose. Instead of stressing about what you cannot control, put your energy to what you can. And no matter what happens in life, always remember, keep moving forward.
AP Designs and Consulting is the place for all your graphic design needs. Check us out to improve your branding. Get amazing flyers, business cards, and even photo props. Be inspired by our scripture trinkets, perfect gifts to continue to shine God's light. Call us at 876-216-1533 or email apdesignsandconsulting@gmail.com. You can become a part of the Overcomer series. Ready to get in on the action? Look out for giveaways each episode on Fridays in April and May at 8:30 p.m. We'll also be gifting scripture trinkets from AP Designs and Consulting Weekly. If you are a follower on social media, you may win cool Overcomers gear. We'd also love to hear your story of overcoming. There'll be a winner of an amazing gift box from the gift curator JA. What has Christ done for you that you thought you would not be able to accomplish? What have you been able to achieve against all odds? Tell us in a video of less than 1 minute and hashtag Overcomers Challenge, or email it to us at johnnyljAlcock@gmail.com. Further details on social media. Remember, with Christ in the vessel, you can smile at any storm. Here's to a great season of overcoming. So everybody, please, that was a little bit of information about Overcomers Challenge. And if you have not entered that competition as yet, I have about 5 entries so far. And you need to go on Instagram, put in hashtag Overcomers Challenge, and you will see some of the fascinating stories that are there. Please do. And it's very simple. Do a quick, less than 1 minute video, create it on your phone, upload it to Instagram, tag me, Johnny Alcock on Instagram, as well as hashtag Overcomers Challenge. I'll see it. And once it fits in the criteria of the competition rules, I'll put it up on my page. Person with the most likes, not the most views, please, will win something great from our sponsor. Additionally, as this episode goes, I want to give away one of our trinkets or scripture trinkets from the gift curator, not the gift curator, sorry, from AP Designs and Consulting. So please, I'm going to ask this question. Carla went through something in the last segment. 2 things, 2 ways. Oh boy, maybe that's too difficult. 2 different types of therapies that you can use. One starts with a C, the other starts with an R, that you can go through to process your emotions and the anxious feelings that you may be going through in order to train your mind to get better and to enhance how you think about yourself in a more positive manner. So please do put it in the comments. 2 processes or 2 different sorts of therapy that you can use to train your mind a little better. Carla.
Yes.
Look like you're buzzing to say something else.
I'm just really excited to see when it come up in the chat if people will actually get it.
Oh Lord, I hope they're actually listening. So, my gosh, that was a mouthful in the last 40 minutes. There's still some more things I want us to look at.
Mm-hmm.
You also do things as a teacher, as a trainer.
Yeah.
You host and facilitate, just seminars and different things and programs and stuff. Do you see that the training that you have received as a life coach, as well as some of the experiences that you've had, do you see it just molding in there and doing some work as you do those things?
Yes, I definitely see where my life coach training is molding how I function as a trainer and a facilitator. I think when I facilitate a training, there are 2 things that are happening in the room at the same time.
Yeah.
I am delivering the information that I have been paid to deliver by whichever organization has contracted me. And I'm offering emotional support to people as they grapple with the information and as they try to do that work to change their behavior, to change the way they think about it, or to deal with whatever emotions might come up. This is significant because the work that I do is around equality. It's about justice, it's human rights, gender-based violence, HIV, all of these types of things.
Yes.
Big emotions are going to come up in the room
All the time.
And so I've always been, kind of doing that work. But I think for one of the more recent trainings that I've done, it really has been a process of giving myself permission to acknowledge and to affirm what it is that I'm doing. I think when we, and I know that maybe some anxious people will resonate with this, when we affirm that something that we do has value, not even that it's special or that it's different, but just that something around us, about us, has value, it can feel exposing. It can feel like you're just waiting for the other shoe to fall. It can feel like you're full of yourself. It can feel like you're haughty, all of these other things. And so to come to a place where I can say, I am both coaching and facilitating at the same time. And I think that there's something unique about that. It still feels bold to say it even now. There's still a spark of anxiety that comes up, even now saying this to you in this, a safe space with you, somebody that I've known for years.
Yes.
But it's the truth. Receiving training as a life coach and deciding that, okay, I'm really walking, I'm a purpose now, has shifted the way I do everything, because I recognize that there is always an emotion that's being dealt with. And a lot of times when people are resistant to something, a lot of times when you're trying to introduce people to something and it seems that they're not getting it, or they just don't want to get it, is the emotion. The emotion is the block. And that's why spaces like this here that you have created are important, because it helps us to deal with our emotions. We are emotionally driven creatures, right? A student comes into my class and they just refuse to read any of the material. Why? Well, the material is challenging them to think about women and the world in a way that they never have, because it's gender studies. They're having an emotional reaction to the material. And that's coming out as a student who just refuses to engage, who refuses to read, you know? And if we even think about that anxiety in the classroom, there are so many of my students who are brilliant. They are anxious. There are so many of my students.
They're afraid that they'll fail or stuff like
They're
that.
afraid that they will fail. And for some people, that fear of failure comes out in, I refuse to try. The fear of failure comes out as procrastination, right? The fear of failure comes out as, me no business. I care too much. And so I pretend I don't care. The fear of failure comes out as people pleasing. You see it. I care too much, so I pretend I don't care.
God,
The fear of failure comes out as people pleasing, right? I have to make sure that everyone likes me. So I'm going to be whoever the people want me to be. I'm a different version of me with each group of people. Or I just always nice all the time to make sure everyone feels positively about me. The fear of failure comes out as many
things. Stick a pin right in there.
Yeah.
And you were going at such a full rate of knots. And if you don't know, this girl talks at like 100 words a minute. But as you see, but let me just stick something in there.
Yeah.
There's nobody in this life who is liked by everybody, one. Neither is there a possibility that you will be able to please everybody with everything. So if you're going around in your life with this anxious type of feeling, saying, all right, if more people were to like me enough, or if I was, my God, that was such a good point, Carla. Or if I stay here and nobody care about nothing, because I really do care about it. Those are, as we would say in the parlance, toxic things to do. Because in the end, you go in the opposite direction of where you want to go. End up not achieving the thing that you want to do. If you try to please too many persons too much, the cycle starts where people, ultimately going to fail, or somebody not going to like you. And you're going to try to do enough to do more and more and more to get more people to like you, and it continues. You feel more. Or you're going to feel, me don't care about nothing. This, nothing not going this, or I can't bother. And you just drop off whatever abilities you have, or you try not to do anything, which in Carla's case as a teacher, it's her students who don't want to do the studies or the assignments. You don't do it, so you feel the shame and the guilt again, and you get more anxious. So, guys, please listen to what teacher Carla is saying to us tonight about reversing the logic of how you think about things. Take from those defeating type of thoughts, negative thoughts, to the positive ones, and get where you need to go. Sorry, but I had to interject right there.
No, no, no. I am glad that you did, because
Yes,
it's true.
yes,
There are, it's so complex because you're looking at a behavior, and what is behind the behavior, you could never know that's what you're looking at.
yes.
You're looking at somebody who refused to try, just stubborn, obstinate, not try, or put off things until the last minute when it's almost guaranteed they can't do it well.
Yes,
But what is behind all of that is, I am afraid I will fail. I am
yes.
anxious about the idea that I will fail. And so it's better for me to not try. One of the red flags that I have come to recognize in people is, me not really care, not really bother me. Me not care, me not really care. A lot of times, me not really care is actually, I care very deeply. Me not really care is, I have been criticized a lot my whole life, and the only way I feel like I can avoid criticism is just not caring about anything, right? Me not really care is actually, I have so many things that I want to do, but I don't have any guidance. I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to make myself vulnerable by asking anybody for the guidance. So me not really care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't lead you to where you need to go.
Mm-mm.
Cycle again, and you get anxious again.
Mm-hmm.
Carla has brought out the little prodding fork. Please don't let me use a different analogy. She brought out something to try to open your minds on how your brains think when you're in those anxious zones. And we all have them, at varying degrees. Where it is that you may need help, or you may need coaching, or you may need to talk to a counselor or a pastor, or you sit down with a family member, or you'll read through some books and get some guides for you to write some notes about yourself, journal, and start thinking about life more, is when you realize it's blocking you
Mm-hmm.
doing the things that you know you're capable of doing. In the case of a student that she was giving an analogy of, they're brilliant, but they block their minds with different things, and so they end up not doing the best at the subject that they can do. And it's very similar with many different other sort of things that we can have in our lives. She mentioned going to the supermarket, a normal everyday thing. But because she's anxious of going, she eats everything down in the house to the last, makes all sort of excuses before she actually goes out, and does something very simple, which probably 30 minutes to an hour if the supermarket is close enough. Do not, I don't know, if you never listen to the hours away I talk, listen to this part when I say to you right now. Do not let your brain trick you into thinking you are incapable of doing something because of your anxiety that you are well equipped and able to do. Let me repeat it again. Do not let your brain trick you into thinking you are incapable of doing something that you are well able and equipped to do, but you don't because of your anxiety. Do. I've been there, and it's not a good place. And if I reach one person tonight, I will be pleased. Carla, you have anything else for the people?
Yes. One of the things that I want to leave with people is this. When we think about anxiety and we think about, when your body is triggered, we think fight or flight,
Yes.
right? Fight or flight. And we can identify that. I'm either feeling aggravated and irritated, or I'm feeling scared and I want to run. One of the things that blew my mind is when I realized that that response, that something bad is happening and I need to get ready for it response, is larger than fight or flight. It's actually fight, flight, flop, fawn, or freeze. There are more F's.
Yes.
Right? So fight, I become irritable, I become miserable, I start get attitude. That is also how fear can show up. Flight, I leave the situation, I withdraw. I go in the room, go lock up, me stop talk to people. People just know, say me put black
Talk to
picture
the
on
people,
WhatsApp.
please.
Right? I put up the black profile picture on WhatsApp because
Yes.
nobody say me delete everything off of my phone. Right? So those are two. Flop, which is literally just give up. Just go along with everything. Just almost, you're in the prone position on the ground. You're just floating along. Fawn, people pleasing. People pleasing can also be a response to that fear trigger. I'm fearful, and so I'm going to fawn all over people. I'm going to make sure that they're happy. I'm going to people please. This is also coming from that same root of fear. And freeze, tense up. Nothing. There are so many of us who have dreams. We have things that we want to achieve. We have things that we want to do, and we can't do them because we are frozen. We are frozen by fear. We have stopped moving because we feel as though we are under some type of external threat. So one of the most important things that I want to leave with everybody tonight is this: learn to read your patterns. It's not about looking for the same exact behavior, but it's about looking out for behavior that's going to get you to the same end goal. That is when you realize that you are stuck inside of a pattern. So for instance, for me, one of my patterns was I was deathly afraid of relationships. I was deathly afraid of relationships. They made me feel vulnerable. They made me feel like I didn't know what was going to happen. I just always feared that something would happen. But there was a part of me that wanted relationships, and I couldn't admit to myself that I was afraid of relationships. So what did I do? I would keep dating people who were unavailable in some way. And so the relationship would have to end. Either they were with somebody else, or they had commitment issues, or they lived far away, but there was something that would cause the relationship to have an end point that was very soon to know. That was my pattern. Whether it's lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, the end result is the same. The relationship is going to end because that's the thing I want, because that's the thing my fear drives me to desire. I feel safe when the relationship is done. I feel unsafe in the relationship. Some of us will find that in many of our social interactions, they end up the same. No matter how nice we seem to be to people, they end up treating us the same, or they end up exploiting us, or they end up taking advantage of us. Think about the choices you have made that have put you in that position. Learn to read your pattern. Understand the trauma that has caused you to make those choices and try to heal it so you can make different choices if you want a different life. It wasn't until I decided that I was going to fight for my life, because I've been suicidal on and off for years. It wasn't until I said to myself, Carla, if you were going to give yourself even the slightest chance at a happy life, what is the first thing you would have to do? And the answer is you have to uproot all of the thoughts you have in your mind that are not going to lead you there. You have to uproot the beliefs. You have to uproot the practices. You have to uproot the choices. You have to go fix up that. And at the core of all of those things was a feeling that I was inadequate. And everything I did was built up around this idea that I was inadequate. I had to go straight down to that root and start addressing it. That's what led me to therapy. That's what led me into coaching. That's what led me into renegotiating my relationship with my spiritual self. That's what led me into speaking very honestly with my family about what my life is like and how I feel. That's what led me to even be dishonest on this platform. That is what led me to being able to stand in a room full of people and talk to them about the things that happened to me when I was 7 years old, because I had to release the shame, because the shame was keeping me feeling I was inadequate, and that inadequacy was coming out as anxiety.
Tell me something. Mighty God. Just take a breath. When you eventually, well, people may not know, I will try to find the video and play it. When you did that video with the United Nations, there's so many different organizations. UNICEF?
UNICEF? Yeah, UNICEF.
What led you to do that? I mean, how did they get to talk to you to get you to do that? Carmen knows you never wanted that. One, and two, jeez. How do you think about it now? And that it was on their platforms?
How I ended up doing that video is I was facilitating a training for UNICEF.
Yes.
UNICEF had a project that they were doing that was about how we can prevent sexual violence against young girls.
Yes.
So to move out of this state where we are responding after it happened, but to actually ask ourselves, how do we prevent this? So I was facilitating that consultation for them. And the media person was there, and he was speaking to a couple of the people, because it's, people from civil society and him up there, and he asked me, if I'd like to say something, because I feel like it may have come up in the training or something like that. And I said yes. And then I sat down and I talked about my experience of being 7 and having this experience, and why I think it's important we talk about it, because even though I was 7 many moons ago, plenty breadfruit season ago, there are still so many girls going through what I went through. And there are still so many girls that need to hear that this has happened to somebody else and the person has survived it, and it's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done that could have caused that person to assault you. And let me tell you, when I knew even more that I had to keep talking about it, I did a training for another organization, and we were talking about assault. And some of the men in the room were saying, oh, well, some women dress the way them dress, and that's what caused it. And some of the women were agreeing it's because the way them dress that caused it. And I disclosed, I said, well, I was sexually assaulted at 7. There is no way that I could have dressed at 7 that could have called assault onto myself. And a man looked at me and said, maybe you were big for 7. Maybe you were big for 7.
Which is the kind of improper way that we have viewed sexuality, as well as how kids grow up. I saw the outrage of a newspaper article that came out. It spoke about a young lady who died 14. But how it was written, it was. I'm pretty sure the writers never quite looked at how it was. I'm not gonna requote it, or the media host that did it. And I can see how, because of how we sometimes look at issues, we do it in an insensitive way, unrealizingly, and can be hurtful. So, guys, if you are going through any of these issues, you can always DM me. See Carla there. Her handle is there on the screen. I'm going to put up her Facebook and Instagram pages and stuff like that, so you can go and seek her out. Life coaching if you want. I am a lay pastor in training. You can seek me out, or I know multitudes of different persons, both in the clergy as well as secular people, as well as counselors, as well as psychologists, and so I know everybody. Message me. These issues that are with us, and this season has not been easy. You need to probably have somebody to talk to sometimes. Don't be shy. Don't be too closed off, or misunderstanding enough to know that there is help for you. Please do reach out. The other thing that plagues persons who have anxiety, and it may lead to other things such as suicidal thoughts, as Carla mentioned, or depression, is that it may lead down another path of, addiction to medication to keep them feeling okay, or it may lead to other addictive type things which are not good for them, to get them back the pleasure in their lives so they can feel up and okay. Or these suicidal thoughts, unfortunately, lead them down a path to eventually take their lives. And so, don't feel, and this is another thing, and I'm speaking to anybody who is on tonight, this is another thing that happens to people. When those thoughts come to them, they feel, meaning suicidal thoughts, they feel that yes, if they go through this process, that it's easier for them to do it and save the burden from their families and their loved ones than to share with them and have them commune with whatever issues and whatever hurts they may be. And I'm going to tell you straight enough that that is a lie that your brain is telling you. Who love you and who are around you, they want to share with you. They want to come and assist you where it needs to be. And if they are well-meaning enough, and your family members and your community members, your church members, your relatives, your friends, your bays, your significant others, more than me who are talking to you right now. If you know them enough and you think on the things that they've done for you in your lives, you will know and understand that what I'm saying is correct. Don't take the burden upon yourself. Seek advice and seek help where it needs to be. Has listed a whole host of different things. I just want you to close, Carla, by saying, what do you think is some of the best methods that you feel persons can use to assist them when they have anxiety? We listed a whole heap, but maybe
Yeah.
tie it up in a nice way for them as we close.
When I think about the best methods for addressing anxiety,
Yes.
I think about broadly
Yes.
mindfulness, which means showing up to your present. Anxiety will draw you all over the place and tell you a bag of lies about what is happening, what threat is coming. But your present, the actual present that is before you, can mash up all of those lies.
Yes, please.
Breathe, breathe. That act of breathing calms your body down. You start to feel anxious, take some deep breaths and come back. What can you hear? What can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? Okay, so now you're back in the present. Come back into your body. What do I feel in my body? Where is tight? Where is burning me? Where feels away? And then ask yourself, what am I feeling and what do I need? All of the other techniques that I've spoken about, the rain meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yes.
all of those things start from that one question: what am I feeling? And if you don't have time to take yourself through anything else, what do I need? And then when yourself declares a need to you, meet it.
Yeah.
Treat yourself the way that you would have wanted to be treated when you were a picnic. Pay attention to yourself, spend time with yourself, invest in yourself, like self-care with yourself, work towards the healing of yourself. Watch her. I told you.
Hey, somebody
I
come
mean,
and
she
show
was really trying her best for the whole time, you know? So spend that type of time with yourself and pay attention to yourself. This is it. That is the thing I want to say. Pay attention to yourself. We have been taught that if we pay too much attention to ourselves, we'll become arrogant and we'll become full of ourselves. And, we head are going to swell and we're
Or we
going to
can
lose
come
humility.
egotistical Crazy.
We become egotistical or
Yes.
crazy or narcissistic. And so many of us are walking around
And we
and
don't
we have
know the thoughts that
abandoned
are in our heads
ourselves. We
until
don't
they
know.
affect
We
us.
don't know until they affect us, right? We abandon ourselves, or the things that we really need to be giving to ourselves, we give them to other people and hope the people will give them back to us. That is a recipe for disaster. Take time with yourself. Take time with yourself. Take time with yourself. And that means spend time with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Show up and recognize that you are a people too. We always do for people. You are people too. And take time with yourself. I think a whole lot of things about my life shifted when I started taking that seriously, taking time with myself. You have something to do that takes 3 weeks, stop telling yourself you can do it in 3 days. That's a recipe for anxiety. You're having a difficult emotion today, you're having a difficult day. Don't shove yourself out into the world like you're a robot. If it's even 5 minutes, sit down with yourself in the morning, acknowledge the feeling, nurture yourself a little bit, take time with yourself, right? Put a system in place to make your life easier. Don't keep doing the same thing in the same way. Take a little time to think about how you can make your life easier. If you have to keep doing the same things, how can you make it better? Just recognize that you're a person and treat yourself that way. And treat yourself like you're a good person. Don't treat yourself like you're a second-class citizen. Treat yourself the way that you would treat somebody that you really love and value. And that will take you far.
Carla, you have done us a great service tonight. Be present. Try to fulfill those positive needs and understand and be aware of the thoughts that are going through your head. That's a summary, really, of many of the things that she said tonight. Please do share this with some of your friends. Please do. Remember the question that was asked. Even if you watch this way after it is broadcast, and I can send a trinket from AP Designs and Consulting to you. 2 of the therapeutic things that she mentioned. And I won't make it so hard this time. I mentioned one that start with C and one that start with R, but she listed one bag of different things. So any of the 2 things that she mentioned, any one of them, I'm going to just mention 2 hours ago. Think about your needs. See me get the answer. Think about
Drop it right back
where you are. I love give away things, you know. So, guys, what we have spoken about here tonight, and we were trying to do it in as light-hearted a way as possible, but concentrate on them. Use and take notes if you need to. And be present enough to know when you're going through issues and you need to find ways to solve them. It is not an easy road out there sometimes. COVID-19 has taught us a lot about ourselves and about the communities that we are in and try to serve. Let us continue to try to not be as, you know, we have sometimes we put on these masks, you know, like we say, I'm okay today. And somebody come, how are you? And we are dead inside, you know. I'm fine. So no, please guys, be authentic. You don't have to tell everybody your entire business. And this is enough for you to be aware of what's going on inside of you. If you feel angry about something, say, you know, last time my boss said something to me and I can't bother with it, you know. Or you woke up, you're feeling groggy and tired, you may have had a long night and you just got a few hours of sleep. Somebody say, you're good, how are you doing this morning? Say, you know, I'm a little tired, you know. So I try to get my day started. Even those simple things, we sometimes are so, it's like you're pulling teeth trying to get it from somebody. That's not good. Try to be aware of enough of who you are and in expressing yourself, being emotionally, as Carla said, intelligent enough. You start to tap into yourself more and express yourself enough more to be able to heal better with where you are in your life. Let's go to another quick commercial break. One of our media personnel is going to be displayed right now. Soon come. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to an ultimate episode of this first season of the Overcomer series. Episode 8 dealt with overcoming anxiety. And I'm with the verbose Carla Moore. And the last thing we want to do is show you a few tips, or rather a few places and areas that you can go to in order to get some help if you need to do so. Carla, can I?
Yeah. Sure. So for folks who are looking for mental health support, the first thing to know is that a lot of the facilities through Ministry of Health and Wellness will have mental health hotlines and mental
Yes.
health clinics. You're not necessarily going to be able to find a mental health clinic every day, but there are mental health clinics and there are hotlines. Often there's a hotline that you can call if you're in distress and get through to somebody immediately. The other place that you can access counseling is through UE. I feel like the website is called UE Helps. But if you just go to UE and you look for, I think, like University of the West Indies counseling unit,
Yes.
then you can go there. And even if you can't get through to them on the phone, you can send them an email or send them a WhatsApp and make an appointment, and somebody will get back in contact with you. The other place is the Jamaican Mental Health Advocacy Network, also known as JAMHAN. You can find them
Yes.
on IG. Every now and again, they will offer free group counseling sessions. It's called
Yeah.
It's Okay JA. They will offer free group counseling sessions, so you can reach out to them. I know that certain NGOs or civil society organizations will also offer counseling. So, for example, Jamaica Aid Support for Life has a psychologist on staff, and they have
Yes, please.
they have like a network
Rotating
that's around the
staff.
country.
Yes.
And so you might be able to actually get, and it's not just for persons living with HIV. You can get access to a psychologist there. I think E for Life also, you might be able to access counseling there. And then there is another individual called Angelique Cohen. You can find her online at Angelique Listen. I think it's Angelique Listen _. She also will offer a space for you to talk. It's not necessarily like a trained therapist, but it's somebody who she has all of the skill set and she knows the tools and all of those things. And she provides you a safe space and can offer you really good feedback. So there are options available. The Ministry of Health did have that hotline, but I think it's now functioning as the COVID-19 hotline. It was 1-888 New Life, but it's a COVID-19 hotline right now, so you might not be able to get that much support there. But there are other options available. Please reach out. Family Life Ministries.
Yes, please.
I don't know if it's free, but they do offer, I think, pay what you can counseling. So they could be a good option for you as well. But reach out. You can overcome anxiety. You actually can. You can overcome it. Overcoming anxiety doesn't always mean that you are never anxious anymore. It means that you can make a conscious decision for you and your anxiety to travel side by side. You can make friends with it, and the two of you can figure out in a relationship and what's the best way to get you through life. So please don't feel so stuck inside of it that you don't reach out for help. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who is sometimes on the other side, sometimes on the inside, sometimes on the other side, sometimes on the inside, it's worth it. It's worth it to fight for your life. It's worth it to try to get help because you can overcome it.
Carla Moore. Academic, artist, alchemist, and what have I missed?
Activist.
Activist.
Yeah.
You have given us a mouthful tonight. more than we could have ever imagined for. Thank you for those assistances of the different places to get help from. I'm going to project it on the screen as well.
Okay.
We leave tonight. Let me just say a prayer. Lord Jesus, mighty God, you are the everlasting King, the great I am, the one who is able to bind up broken places within us, the one who is able to hold us together when we feel that everything else is breaking apart. Keep us so close to you, dear God, that we have no choice but to know that we are loved. Assist us, dear God, when we go through those anxious times, the times when we think negatively about ourselves, the times when we may feel the self-critique even before we go out and get the critique from the world, the times when we may be so bogged down by our emotions and the sensations that have us feeling nauseous or fatigued or, just terribly unsettled, that you are able to give us that balm from Gilead, that we can continue to stay side by side with you and heal. Give us the guidance enough to know who we can go to for advice. Give us the assistance in our spirits to stay strong to your truth, which lets us know that you are an almighty God that created us in your image, so we are your children. And so we are redeemed. We are whole and complete in you. And none of the things that we may be going through in our brains and in our minds and saying to ourselves are as truthful as the fact that we are loved. We are loved by the creator of the universe. We are also loved by people who are around us, no matter what our thoughts may think or say to us. Give us enough peace in our spirits to understand your mercy and your forgiveness. Giving us enough peace in our spirits that we can understand that this life can be joyful. It doesn't have to be an up and down feeling of change in emotions. We can be at peace, dear God. Let the Jehovah Shalom reign tonight into our hearts and into our minds and lead us with your everlasting love, dear God. Amen. So thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Carla. You have been a blessing to me tonight, more than you can ever know. And we need to catch up some more. Guys,
Yeah.
next episode, which will be the final episode, will be with one of my bosses, and you need to see that episode because she speaks about relationship issues. Carla touched on some tonight. She'll go a little bit more deep and about the pain of divorce. So tune in and see you next time. But we can put up some things on the screen. Remember to reach out to anybody who you may see there that you can need, that you can reach out to when you need assistance. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. And if you have the answer to those questions, put them in so we can send something to you. I love you with things. All right. Since little later. All right.
All right.
See you next week this time. And remember, 2020, 2021 may feel difficult, have so much tension, have issues with racial problems, grief, deaths, issues with COVID-19 because government left, right, and center. We have problems with gender-based violence. We have crime rampant. in Jamaica and many other parts of the world, mass shootings in the United States, the Middle East broiling with violence. But God is still here. So live good with each other and remember that this can still be a great season of overcoming. Blessings. Next week on the Overcomers series, we meet Alicia, the brilliant speaker, author, and internet marketer. Alicia Little went through a rough marriage that ended up in divorce. However, what most people don't know is how it affected her emotionally and initially made her self-confidence drop. Now she has written books and taught thousands of individuals how to earn money online. Watch her story on episode 9 when we feature Overcoming the Pain of Divorce, Friday, May 28, 2021 at 8:30 p.m. The Overcomers series is brought to you by Joniel Alcock, Cash Photos Jamaica, Shades of Africa, The Gift Curator Jamaica, AP Designs and Consulting Jamaica.